What if I told you that the endless hustle, the late nights, and the relentless grind you believe are necessary to attract wealth are actually the very things keeping it away from you? What if every single physical action you take out of anxiety, every hour of sleep lost plotting how to make it happen, is not a badge of honor, but the greatest obstacle standing between you and true, unlimited financial freedom? We are programmed to believe that the harder we push against the world, the more it yields. But in the realm of metaphysics and the law of assumption, the exact opposite is true. The more you struggle, the more you solidify the reality of struggle. What if the master key to manifesting abundance without burnout was literally not lifting a finger? Now, before your logical mind rejects this, understand that this is not a metaphor for laziness, nor is it an invitation to passivity or failure. It is the revelation of a power so profound, so radical, that your analytical mind, trained to fight and claw for every inch of progress in the 3D world, will instinctively reject it. This concept threatens the ego because it removes the ego's need to be the hero of the struggle. But you are not here for common logic. You are here for the liberating truth that breaks the cycle of the rat race forever. You are here at Feeling is the Secret to learn to operate not as a worker bee, but as a master of reality. We have been raised in a cult, the cult of effort. From the moment we enter the school system, we are taught that success is the direct result of sweat, pain, and sacrifice. We are told that wealth is the prize at the end of a grueling war against circumstances. Look around you at the American dream today. Is it working? The world is full of exhausted men and women who have moved mountains of fingers, who have sacrificed their peace, their health, and their time, only to find themselves still anxious, still living paycheck to paycheck, chasing a finish line that constantly moves further away. These people are running on the hamster wheel of three-dimensional reality, desperately trying to manipulate the effects, the bank account, the boss, the economy, without ever stopping to question the cause. This agitation, this compulsive need to do something right now, is born from a place of deep-seated fear. It stems from the conviction that you are a victim of circumstances, a small, separate self that must fight the universe for its survival. This is the mindset of the employee, not the creator. When you act from this state of lack and desperation, what do you think you are impressing upon your subconscious mind? You are impressing more struggle, more lack, and more fatigue. The universe, which is only a faithful mirror of your consciousness, has no choice but to reflect your conviction that life is hard and that money must be earned through suffering. As long as you believe you must trade your life force for dollars, the universe will ensure that exchange remains difficult. And so, the more you force it, the more effort becomes necessary just to maintain the status quo. It is a trap. But the great mystic master, Neville Goddard, revealed a secret that flips this paradigm of slavery on its head. This is a secret so powerful that if truly understood and applied, it can transport you from debt to prosperity, from sickness to health, and from anxiety to sovereign peace, without you having to lift a finger in the physical world to force the result. This secret is the difference between operating as a mortal who manipulates effects and operating as God, the first cause, who simply is. This technique is what Neville called entering the Sabbath, or the divine rest. This is not about religious observance. It is about psychological physics. It is the mechanics of how reality is actually structured. The Sabbath is not a day of the week to go to church. It is a state of consciousness. It is the deep mental rest that follows the successfully performed imaginal act. It is the absolute, unshakable faith in the fact that it is finished. Neville taught that creation is finished. Everything you desire, every potential reality, every version of you that is already a millionaire, already free, already successful, exists right now in the divine imagination, which is your own wonderful human imagination. You do not have to build the version of you that is wealthy. You simply have to step into it. Your only job is not to create wealth from thin air using blood and sweat, but to select the reality where wealth is already yours. How do you select? Not with physical action, but with assumption. You assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. You, in your imagination, enter the state of the person who already has the money, who is already secure, who is already prospering. You do not think of the money, you think from the money. There is a massive difference. Thinking of it implies separation. Thinking from it implies possession. Once you have performed this imaginal act, once you have felt the sensation of naturalness, the relief that comes with having the deposit hit your account, the sigh of relief that the debt is paid, your work is done. At that point, you do not lift a finger. You enter the rest, the Sabbath, knowing that what you have done inwardly must manifest outwardly. It is a law as real as gravity. But I can hear your logical mind screaming, "This is absurd. I have to do something. I have bills to pay. I have to find clients. I have to work." And this is exactly where 90% of students fail. They confuse compulsive action born of fear with inspired action born of faith. Compulsive action is the attempt to make something happen because you don't believe it has happened yet. Inspired action is the natural movement that follows your conviction that it has already happened. They are two different universes. When you are in the Sabbath, when you know your manifestation is certain, you do not feel the anxiety to do. You are at peace. And from that peace, you move mountains without breaking a sweat. When you are truly in the Sabbath, when you have accepted your success as a done deal, the frantic anxiety to make it happen dissolves into a potent peace. From that state of sovereign calm, you might be inspired to make a phone call, write an email, or simply take a nap. But that action will be effortless. It will feel like the most natural thing in the world, not a forced march. It becomes a seamless piece of what Neville called the bridge of incidents, the series of events the universe orchestrates to bring your desire to you. Remember this maxim: to struggle is to doubt, to rest is to believe. Let me illustrate this principle with a story that perfectly captures the failure of the hustle and the power of the law. There was a man, let's call him Richard. Richard was a brilliant architect, talented and ambitious, but he was standing on the precipice of bankruptcy. The market had shifted, projects dried up, and his firm was drowning in overhead and debt. He was doing everything the business gurus told him to do. He was working 18 hours a day, sacrificing his sleep, his relationships, and his sanity on the altar of hard work. Richard was the poster child for the American hustle. He made endless cold calls, sent out hundreds of proposals, and attended every networking event in the city. He was moving every finger he had, straining every muscle of his will. Yet, every door slammed in his face. The harder he pushed, the faster his clients seemed to vanish, and the more aggressive his creditors became. It was as if the world was repelling him. He was chasing money, and energy that is chased always runs away. He was the perfect example of a man fighting shadows. He didn't realize that his external reality, the rejection, the silence, the mounting bills, was a faithful reflection of his internal consciousness. His dominant state was, "I am desperate, I am drowning, I must fight to survive." And the universe, obedient as always, said, "Yes, you are," and gave him more battles to fight. He was trapped in a feedback loop of scarcity, trying to change the reflection in the mirror by screaming at it. One evening, utterly exhausted and defeated, Richard stumbled upon a lecture by Neville Goddard regarding the principle of the Sabbath. At first, his conditioned mind rejected it as insanity. "Do not lift a finger. This man is crazy. If I stop grinding, I lose everything. I have to keep the lights on." But his desperation had reached a breaking point. The old way wasn't working. He realized he was digging his own grave with his effort. So, as a last resort, he decided to test the law. That night, Richard did the unthinkable. He locked the door to his office. The threatening letters from the bank were still piled on his desk. The notification light on his phone was blinking with missed calls from collections. But for the first time in months, he chose to ignore the 3D world completely. He turned off his computer. He decided he would not send another desperate email or make another panicked call. He declared that his work for the night would be of a different order entirely. He sat in his favorite armchair, closed his eyes, and asked himself the most important question you can ever ask. How would I feel right now if all my debts were paid? How would I feel if I had just signed the most lucrative contract of my career? He didn't look for a strategy. He looked for a feeling. He wasn't trying to hope or wish. He was trying to access the visceral sensation of the reality where the problem no longer existed. He searched for the relief. Slowly, he felt the crushing weight on his chest dissolve, replaced by a warm wave of profound relief. It wasn't just a thought. It was a physical shift. He constructed a scene in his imagination. He was looking at his online banking portal, seeing a positive 6-figure balance. He wasn't just seeing it. He was feeling the satisfaction of it. He imagined the taste of the expensive coffee he would drink the next morning, not with the bitter taste of anxiety, but with the sweet flavor of celebration. Richard practiced the art of not lifting a finger in the external world, while moving universes in his internal world. For 3 whole days, he did not make a single business call. He didn't answer the aggressive emails. When the fear rose up in his throat, And it did. He didn't react to it. He simply returned to his imaginal act, the sensation of relief, the scene of the signed contract. To the outside observer, he looked like he had given up, but Richard wasn't giving up. He was receiving. He was occupying the state of the wish fulfilled. He was observing the Sabbath. He was living from the end, not towards the end. This is the secret that separates the masters from the dreamers. Effort implies that there is a distance between you and your goal that you must traverse. Rest implies union. It implies that you are already there. By refusing to act from fear, Richard broke the cycle of lack. He stopped telling the universe he was poor and started commanding the universe to reflect his wealth. On the fourth day, the silence was broken. The phone rang. It wasn't the bank. It wasn't a bill collector. It was an old friend from university he hadn't spoken to in years, who just happened to be in town on a layover. They met for coffee. Richard didn't vomit his anxieties onto his friend. He didn't complain about the economy or his debts. He stayed in the state of the wish fulfilled. He spoke of his vision for architecture, his passion for design, radiating the calm confidence of a man who had already made it. He listened, present and peaceful, completely detached from the chaos that was supposedly consuming his life. The very next day, that friend called again. "Richard," he said, his voice buzzing with excitement, "you won't believe this. I was at dinner last night with a group of international investors. They are looking for a lead architect for a massive luxury eco-resort. I showed them that visionary concept you did years ago, the one everyone said was too bold. They loved it. They want to fly you out tomorrow to meet the board." Richard stood there, phone in hand, realizing the immensity of what had just happened. Richard hadn't lifted a finger to find that client. He didn't even know those investors existed. He hadn't sent a portfolio, pitched a deck, or cold-called a soul. It was his state of consciousness, his Sabbath, that magnetized the perfect circumstances. The contract he signed a week later didn't just pay off his debt. It secured his financial independence for years. The universe didn't need his anxious hustle. It needed his faith. It needed him to get out of the way and let the bridge of incidents unfold naturally. Do you understand now? Richard's story isn't a random miracle. It is the cold, hard operation of the law. It is proof that your 3D world is compelled to conform to your internal state. As long as you are moving your fingers out of fear, trying to manipulate the external world, you are broadcasting a signal of lack. You are telling the universe, "I don't have it yet," and the universe responds, "Then you shall not have it." You keep yourself trapped in the rat race by your very effort to escape it. But the moment you enter the Sabbath, the moment you feel that you already are the person you want to be, you die to your old reality. You are reborn. Your only job is to remain faithful to that internal assumption. If this truth is starting to resonate in your gut, if you feel that spark of recognition that says this is the way out, then take a deep breath. Acknowledge this moment. You are waking up from the dream of limitation. As a symbolic act to declare your understanding, hit the like button on this video. Do not do it as a passive click, but as a conscious action. Let it be your first physical affirmation that you are choosing faith over fear, leverage over labor. And now, to burn this law into your subconscious mind, pause for a second and go to the comment section. We are going to seal this pact. Write this declaration of power. Don't write it for me or for the algorithm. Write it for yourself. Declare to your world, I rest in certainty. Do it now. Feel the power as you type it. I rest in certainty. You do not hope. You do not wait. You know. It is finished. That certainty is the currency with which you buy your freedom. Now that you have anchored this feeling, we need to deconstruct why this works with such scientific precision. We need to take apart the clockwork of reality so your logical mind can surrender. The resistance you feel to the idea of doing nothing is the resistance of your ego, the guardian of the 3D prison, which believes it must control every variable. But the divine mechanics are simple. The world you perceive with your 5 senses is not the cause. It is the effect. It is a mirror, a shadow projected by your imagination. You are, in this precise moment, the operant power of God. Your human imagination is God in action. When you imagine, you are designing reality. The problem is, you have been imagining unconsciously, reacting to what the news, your bank balance, and your boss tell you is real. You saw debt, the effect, and imagined more debt, the cause, creating an infinite loop of poverty. Neville taught that to break this loop, you must withdraw your attention from the world of shadows and place it on the only true reality, your imaginal act. When Richard sat down and felt the relief, he wasn't daydreaming. He was performing the only creative act that matters. He was impressing a new blueprint onto the subconscious. The subconscious is impersonal. It does not judge. It simply accepts your feeling as fact and moves heaven and earth to externalize it. Once the subconscious accepts your new reality as fact, its infinite intelligence sets the bridge of incidence in motion. It moves people. It shifts markets. It aligns coincidences. You do not need to know the how, the when, or the who. The how is the domain of the subconscious, not your conscious mind. Trying to micromanage the process is the worst use of your imagination. It is interference. The true meaning of not lifting a finger is this: do not lift a finger in your mind to alter the plan that the subconscious is already executing for you. Do not dig up the seed to see if it is growing. This is what Neville called the mental diet. It is the discipline of the master. The 3D world, what Neville called Caesar, will try to bully you back into submission. It will show you the overdue bill. It will show you the empty fridge. These are shadows trying to convince you they are the substance. Your job is not to fight the shadows. You cannot fight a reflection. Your job is to look at the bill and say internally, this belongs to the old timeline. In my true reality, I am abundant. It is already paid. You don't ignore the physical responsibility, but you refuse the emotional reaction of fear. When you successfully occupy the state of wealth, The frantic urgency to do something vanishes. Imagine a billionaire. Does he lose sleep over a $100 unexpected expense? Does he panic if a client cancels a meeting? No. He operates from a baseline of abundance. His actions are calm, decisive, and effortless. You must occupy that psychology now, before the millions appear. You must become, in your consciousness, the person who has already solved the problem. Then you will act, speak, and think as that person. Your actions will change nature. You won't act to get money. You will act because you are rich. You might feel a sudden impulse to walk down a different street where you accidentally bump into a future business partner. You might feel the urge to buy a coffee for a stranger, not out of sacrifice, but because you feel so overflowing with abundance that generosity is your natural state. Those inspired actions are light, joyful, and surprising. If an action feels heavy, forced, or fearful, do not do it. That is the action of the old self. Return to the Sabbath. Be still. Sometimes, the most powerful, inspired action is literally to sit down and do nothing. This is the divine paradox. Maximum power is found in stillness. Maximum gain is found in surrender. Effortless attraction does not come from grinding harder. It comes from a radical shift in identity. You are willing to abandon the identity of the struggler and assume the identity of the possessor. You have been given the secret of kings. You have been told that your imagination is God, and that nothing is impossible to you if you can only feel the reality of your desire. Now, the question is not whether the law works. The law is as impersonal and infallible as gravity. The question is, do you have the nerve to test it? Do you have the discipline to stay in the Sabbath, to not lift a finger against your own creation? You are standing on the edge of total freedom. You have the key not just to wealth, but to the dominion over your reality. You did not find this channel by accident. You were guided here by your own higher self, tired of the struggle, ready to remember its power. Money is not an external entity to be begged or chased. It is a shadow, a servant that obediently responds to your state of consciousness. As long as you move your fingers with anxiety, you are commanding it to run away. The moment you enter the Sabbath, the moment you rest in the certainty that I am already abundance, you command money and the entire universe to come to you and serve you. This is your divine birthright. Stop looking outside for salvation. Stop believing you are small. You are the alchemist of consciousness. Your task is not to turn lead into gold in a laboratory. Your task is to turn your consciousness of lack, lead, into a consciousness of abundance, gold. Once this inner alchemy is complete, the entire external world will magically transform into the golden reflection of your work. Do not lift a finger. Rest in your power. Enter the Sabbath and watch the salvation of the Lord, which is your own wonderful human imagination, bring to light the wealth that is already yours. This is the path. It is not an easy path for the mind addicted to doubt, but it is the only path to true freedom. It is the path of the Master, and you are here to walk it. You have the tools. You have the method. Now, all you need is the faith to apply it. Do not just believe me. Test this law. Dare tonight to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and remain faithful to that assumption. Dare to not lift a finger and watch the miracles unfold. If you are ready to claim your divine sovereignty, if you are done being an effect and ready to become the cause, then your journey with us has just begun. This is not just a YouTube channel. It is a school of mysteries. Subscribe to Feeling is the Secret now. Join this brotherhood of creators and master the law of your being. Click the subscribe button and turn on notifications, because every video is a lesson that brings you closer to your full power. The work is done. It is finished. Welcome to your new life.